This morning, I'd like to talk about Bottesini's Reverie. It's an absolute favorite of all bass players. Everyone loves the piece, and deservedly so, because it's very beautiful. Um, and the history of the piece is even more interesting because, to my knowledge, or our knowledge, it never was meant to be played on the bass. Uh, it began its life as a song. There are two manuscript versions of the song in the collection of Bottesini's music. It's called Quando Quadran le foglie, when the leaves fall down. And it's a very sad, very serious song. It's not as long as the bass piece, which is another interesting thing. It sort of stops sort of toward the end, but it stops. And it's at this song. Then, Bottesini, it was in Nice. Bottesini played chamber music almost everywhere he went, and he played mostly on the viola. Chamber music evenings with friends and things like that, he would play the viola. And there were two friends of his that played chamber music in Nice together. One was a cellist named Uds Horn, and the other was a violinist named Simonetti, Achille Simonetti. And they both decided to take this song, which they must have heard, and transcribe it. So one of them transcribed it for the cello, and the other one, in the same key as the song, transcribed it for the violin. This was in A minor. If you play the song on the bass, if you play that edition, the cello version, which is, I recorded that one, and I'll tell you why I recorded it in a second, but I played it in G minor, and it goes very well on the bass. And at the end, there's a high E, quite a loud high E, but there is in lots of other pieces too, including the second concerto, the first concerto, elegy. There's lots of Bottesini pieces that have a high E, loud. So he must have had some way of playing loud high E. Many people use softer harmonics. I'd probably go for the harmonic. I'm going to try it in a minute. The decision was made along the way, I think, by Hermann Reinsagen, to put the piece a fourth lower. It was more accessible, and they sort of lend itself a little bit better to general bass playing. Reinsagen was the principal in the New York Philharmonic. He was the teacher of several very important bass players. Most one being Frederick Zimmermann, who published lots of music for international music and things. Reinsagen put the piece a fourth lower, and I thought, why did he do that, and do we know anything about it? So I spoke to Gary Carr. So I had a nice chat with Gary Carr, and Gary told me that Reinsagen was always transcribing things for the bass, making them work, writing them on transparencies, because of course we're not talking computer times, we're talking way long ago. And he would write transparencies, the kind where if you made a mistake you had to get a razor blade and rub it out. Reinsagen probably put the piece a fourth lower, and this is the version that most of us know and play. I thought it would be correct when I was recording Bottesini pieces. I thought, let's record Reverie, but let's do it in the original key of A minor, the bass in G minor sounding in A minor. So I did it in that key, but today we're going to talk about the key most people play in. To set about playing the piece, we have to think that it's a song. And Bottesini wrote lots of songs, and some of them very beautiful, and lots of songs, and he also wrote 12 operas. He wrote a Requiem Mass, which is a beautiful piece. We managed to record it. It's interesting to listen to. Yeah, so, and so his world was the world of the opera and singing. he did write string quartets and string quintets and things like that. And some of his music falls into things other than opera. And some of it, most of it, actually is singing. What was singing in his time? Singing was called, the system at that time of singing was called bel canto, which just means beautiful singing, but there were a lot of rules that went along with it. And the chief rule, one of them was carrying the notes using portato. So instead of ah, you go ah, each note would carry. Then we used portato bowing, which is, you can't play this music without portato, and sub-phrasing and finding interest. We'll talk about that in a bit. Then the other thing was that they followed the line of the notes. Absolutely. So the accompaniment followed the bar lines. But nowadays we tend to phrase to bar lines. And they didn't do that in the melody. They followed the line of the notes, which is very interesting, and changes the music drastically. And things. So we'll talk about that too. So we have to apply sort of bel canto ideas. I'm gonna embarrass myself by singing because in this music I always sing and then play what I sang. That's my idea of the music, is to sing and play what I sang.